Trump administration has been targeting elite Ivy League institutions in America. Most recently, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to strip Harvard of its tax-exempt status. White House press secretary called for Harvard to apologize to the Trump administration for rejecting demands.
First, when it comes to Harvard, as I said, the president has been quite clear they must follow federal law. He also wants to see Harvard apologize, and Harvard should apologize for the egregious anti-Semitism that took place on their college campus against Jewish American students. There were professors who said that he had engaged in discriminatory behavior against Jewish students. Of course, you had the former president of the university saying bullying and harassment depends on the context. You also had an encampment on Harvard Yard that we all saw play out before the cameras. The university failed to impose formal discipline on any students for this anti-Semitic conduct violations, including the occupation of a campus building and the disruption of classes with bullhorns. The president believes Harvard should apologize to its Jewish American students for allowing such egregious behavior. As for the tax-exempt status, I would defer you to the IRS for any updates. When it comes to Harvard, the president's position on this is grounded in common sense. In the basic principle that Jewish American students, or students of any faith, should not be illegally harassed and targeted on our nation's college campuses. And we unfortunately saw that illegal discrimination take place on the campus of Harvard. There are countless examples to prove it, particularly with the stunning confession by then Harvard President Claudine Gay, who said that bullying and harassment depended on the context. The president at that time made it clear to the American public he was not going to tolerate illegal harassment and anti-Semitism taking place in violations of federal law. So the president made it clear to Harvard, follow federal law, no longer break Title VI, which was passed by Congress to ensure no student can be discriminated against on the basis of race, and you will receive federal funding. Unfortunately, Harvard has not taken the president or the administration's demands seriously. All the president is asking, don't break federal law, and then you can have your federal funding. I think the president is also begging a good question. More than $2 billion out the door to Harvard when they have a more than $50 billion endowment. Why are the American taxpayers subsidizing a university that has billions of dollars in the bank already? And we certainly should not be funding a place where such grave anti-Semitism exists.
Why do Ivy League schools get so much federal funding?
It's a very good question, and it's a question the president has obviously raised in his discussions and negotiations with not just Harvard, but also Columbia and many other Ivy League institutions. We have the Anti-Semitism Task Force, which the president promised and delivered on. The Anti-Semitism Task Force is across the government, representatives from various federal agencies who meet on a weekly basis to discuss the question that you just raised. And I think a lot of Americans are wondering why their tax dollars are going to these universities when they are not only indoctrinating our nation's students, but also allowing such egregious illegal behavior to occur.
The Trump administration has rebuked universities across the country for handling pro-Palestine protests on campuses.
And one last point I want to make, Mr. President, and again, it's under your leadership, it's actually under your executive order. If you come to this country as a student, we expect you to go to class and study and get a degree. If you come here to vandalize a library, take over a campus, and do all kinds of crazy things, we're going to get rid of these people. And we're going to continue to do it. So when we identify lunatics like these, we take away their student visa. No one's entitled to a student visa. The press covers student visas like there's some sort of birthright. No, a student visa is like me inviting you into my home. If you come into my home and put all kinds of crap on my couch, I'm going to kick you out of my house. And so, that's what we're doing with our country, thanks to the president. And last but not least, very important development this week, but both Pam and I were very excited. The finest higher education institution in the United States, University of Florida, is also now the national champions in basketball, and we hope you'll host them here soon, Mr. President. Go Gators.
They're coming.
Columbia student Mahmoud Khalil was detained in March over anti-Semitic protests. The New York-based university has agreed to negotiations over demands to tighten its protest rules. This comes after the Trump administration terminated grants worth $400 million from Columbia University. Some Columbia professors sued the Trump administration, saying the grant terminations violated Title VI, their constitutional speech and due process rights. A federal judge in New York has ordered the Trump administration to reply by May 1st. Former President Barack Obama, as well as Princeton and Stanford University, have supported Harvard standing against Trump's compliance orders. After Khalil, Indian postdoctoral fellow Badar Khan Suri from Georgetown, and Turkish student Rumeysa Öztürk from Tufts University were detained for their pro-Hamas links. Authorities had revoked the visas of international students in at least 32 states, as per NBC News analysis. Several students like Ranjani Srinivasan from India self-deported after her U.S. visa was revoked for allegedly supporting Hamas. Another Indian student and 3 others have sued the Trump administration for unlawful termination of their student immigration status. Students have been detained over protests, flouting DUI or driving under influence, or having certain political social media posts. This may be part of the Trump administration's larger crackdown on immigration and deportation, legal experts suggest. Rubio has said the State Department has revoked over 300 student visas till last month, 3 months into Trump 2.0. Fears of deportation and funding cuts have pushed more immigrant students living in the United States to opt for Canada. University of British Columbia, UBC in Vancouver, has reported a 27% rise in graduate applications from U.S. citizens for the 2025 year. The University of Toronto and the University of Waterloo have recorded an increase in interest and applications from U.S.-based students. This is despite Canada placing a cap on international student admissions for the 2nd consecutive year.